entertain. Welcome now to the big story for this morning. And as it is, President Donald Trump announced recently a travel ban restricting entry to the United States for nationals of Cuba, Haiti, and Venezuela. The ban affects immigrants and non-immigrants from these countries with varying restrictions. For instance, Haiti has a full ban on entry. Cuba and Venezuela, partial restrictions on entry for tourism, business, and student visas, and so on. We wanted to delve into this matter this morning a little deeper and shed as much light as we possibly can. And so we are joined this morning by well-known U.S. immigration attorney Opal Lee, who we're having on the program for the first time. Good morning and welcome, Ms. Lee. How are you today?
Good morning, Richard B. Thank you for having me. I'm doing well, and I hope the same for you. And good morning to your wonderful listeners as well.
All right. Thank you so much, Opal, for joining us. And we also have a repeat guest. He has been on with us several times over, my good friend Irwine Clare. Good morning, Irwine. How are you doing today, my brother?
Good morning, Richie, and pleasant morning to your listeners and to Miss Opal Lee as well. Good morning.
All right. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, let me start with you, Ms. Lee. My first question to you then is, what exactly does President Trump's travel ban entail for nationals from Cuba, from Haiti, Venezuela, and so on? And who is most affected by these new restrictions that were announced?
Oh, okay, Richard B. That is like a mouthful. As you know, this is just coming in. And so the most people that are going to be affected are those, for example, for the suspension, are those who are coming in for tourist purposes, business, for student visas. They're the ones who are going to be subjected to the suspension. It's worth knowing that current visa holders are fine. And anyone whose a visa has been issued up to June 9th, they're fine, or they're supposed to be fine. Mm-hmm. Another exception for not only for the suspension but for the full ban are green card holders, which are lawful permanent residents. And as I said before, if you already have a visa, and then of course you have certain other visa categories and persons who and this is where it gets a little bit tricky because it says persons who serve American national interest. So that's the loophole where they will say, for example, we have nurses coming in, doctors, certain professions that's going to serve the best interest of the United States, then yes, they're not going to be affected, and that would be on a case-by-case basis. And I should point out that the full ban is not only for Haiti, it also goes, for example, for Afghanistan and certain, of the African countries. We have Burma, but there's a long list of them.
Yes.
Yeah.
It really is quite an exhaustive list. In fact, I can name some of the countries. You mentioned Afghanistan. There's Burma, Chad, the Republic of the Congo, Equatorial Guinea, Eritrea, Iran, Libya, Somalia, Sudan, Yemen has a full ban, Burundi, Laos, Sierra Leone, Togo, and even Turkmenistan. Those are other countries that are being affected by this. I want to stick with you a little bit for my next question as well, Ms. Lee. For those who already have, just for clarity, for those who already have valid U.S. visas or pending immigration applications from these countries, what should they do now? Are those still valid or at risk?
The thing is that for right now, it might seem that they're okay, but President Donald Trump made it clear that they reserve the right to move the goalposts. So he could do anything else. Next week, he could be hearing a different thing. So for right now, with the present, or as it stands, the announcement, the current visa holders should not be affected. And if it's an immigrant visa and you have an appointment coming up, immigrant visa, for those who don't know, that's for when you're trying to migrate, maybe your spouse, your parents, your siblings, somebody has filed for you and you're going to be residing in the United States, those visa applications should not be affected right now as it stands.
Mm-hmm. Irwine,
so if you have an appointment coming up next week, for example, even after June 9th, sorry about that.
Yes, go ahead.
But even if you have an appointment for immigrant visa, even for next week, you should still go in for your interview and look forward and just be positive.
This is obviously causing a lot of a concern for many people. Irwin, what do you see as the potential long-term effects on this travel ban on even the U.S. economy or the education system and even international relations?
Good morning again. It's a multiplicity of factors here. It demonstrates also to throwing everything out and hoping that something sticks. In the initial mass confusion, which is part of the strategy, it's going to cause confusion. As Ms. Lee rightfully say, they reserve the right to move the goalposts, which they do, because realize this now, that this earnest response here is coming as a result of what transpired last week, where that gentleman had from, I think it's Egypt or Palestine or wherever, had attacked those persons who were demonstrating. The Jews were Jews were demonstrating as relates to those who were affected by the Gaza incursion there. Mm-hmm. And the whole subject of overstay came up. And here comes the knee-jerk action. If you listen to if you heard what the president said yesterday, he said, we do not want any overstays here because they're coming here to cause harm. That is a larger situation that concerns me, because it hits further home here, because we do have persons within our community, and I'm remaining in my lane right now, in our community, who would have gone to the United States or come to the United States and have overstayed and are in the process of adjusting their status, which the law provides them that. And the question now comes, what other incursions or what other methods will the Trump administration now be making to sift out those persons? That could become problematic. But as it relates to what's transpiring here as far as this ban goes, it will have far-reaching implications. Because the whole aspect you mentioned, higher education, now we've heard now where Harvard now is totally banned from having international students come in, and they're not even looking at those students who are already in the system with visas to ban them as well. And Colombia now is being drawn back into the foray. So the question now begs itself, is America truly, through these methodologies, really dumbing themselves down? But at the same token, the president reserves the right to do any darn thing he wants, because he will tell you that this was the mandate he got in the last election.
Mm-hmm. Ms. Lee, if you've heard anything from Irwin that you wish to comment on, that is fine. But I also wanted to ask you another question, and that is, are there any humanitarian exceptions or waivers that are available for individuals from affected countries, such as asylum seekers or refugees? And can individuals from these affected countries still visit the U.S. for even specific purposes such as medical treatment or education under this ban, for that matter?
Absolutely, because remember, it's going to be on a case-by-case basis, as I said before. And so one thing that I would tell everyone, that if you think you have a case and you really need to come in, you should always make your case. It's best if you have, of course, a professional to do for that for you. But as you just rightly said, there are certain things that if you're fleeing persecution, you still have to. I know that ban is in place, but it's a life and death situation. And so it's best to make your case, and so you will know what will happen afterwards. I want to comment on one thing that Mr. Irwin said, which I think is very, very important, is, President Trump had given a reason for his actions. And yes, the main one, that for Haiti, he cited the reason being for visa overstay. That is triggering, that is alarming, because Haiti is not the only country who has a lot of overstays. And so we in the diaspora, we need to be very worried about that. As a matter of fact, I am seeing it actually on the ground with my colleagues as well, where for years it has been no problem where people have overstayed and an immigrant visa is readily available to them from a family member, for an immediate family member, such as you're married, for example, to a U.S. citizen. Mm-hmm. Even if you've overstayed for 10 years, 2 years, it has not been a problem, because that is an exception to getting your green card. And so you go into your interview. If you don't have any criminal record, you would have no worries at all. You pass the test, you can show that your marriage is bona fide, and you're looking at going back home with your spouse. Now everybody is triggered, everybody's worried, because what we're seeing happening at these interviews is that we have ICE officers waiting right outside these interviews. And so, because usually they may not give you an approval right there and then tell you, yes, your marriage is real. The officer might say, okay, you'll hear from us in a week or two. So it's not yet approved. Yet you have these ICE officers outside the waiting room waiting for these spouses, these overstays to get out, and then you're put in custody. Of course, later on, you can get a bond, you're bonded out, but it's just an extra step. It's just extra aggravation, things that people have to be thinking about we never had to think about. So this overstay is really and truly a problem, because not only patients overstay.
So true, so true. Irwine, what of the global reputation of the United States and relations with other countries as a result of these restrictions? Do you think this will have a major impact there?
Yes, it does, but Donald Trump doesn't care. That's not in their orbit. That's not in their orbit. It's about what he wants for the United States. The whole aspect of international relations and forging democracy and building democracy and helping people who are in challenged environments. Haiti is going through their challenges. They're basically saying, I don't give a darn about you. That's basically what the message is in here. And let me just quickly say something here. In the elections, both elections where Donald Trump had significant participation, the Haitian coalition was one of the strongest amongst all Caribbean groups that were out there canvassing, lobbying, raising funds for Donald Trump. Let's not forget that. So if this is their payback, for those of us in the Caribbean region and leaders in the Caribbean region who may feel that somehow certain overtures to our respective islands from the Trump administration bodes them well and puts them in great position, I wouldn't be too comfortable on those laurels, because it's the administration initiatives first. So in our region, we should begin to start realizing that as independent nations, and we find ourselves in a collaborative environment, starting to find ways to provide passageways for respective inhabitants to live glorious lives within the region. Because we should not be having any expectation that just because we're the third friendly, I can't say third friendliest border anymore, because there are no friends in Canada or friends in Mexico. So, we're in a unique situation. But this is a plight that we face. Richard, do you know that this year would mark 20 years that successive administrations have recognized Caribbean American Heritage Month in these United States, that Caribbean people fought hard for because of our contributions to this nation, that is not being recognized? The first time in 20 years. To date, there has been no proclamation coming out of the White House. And we don't know if it's going to come. We've had no explanations for it. So let's understand the environment in which we live in. And as a citizen of the United States, I have a right based on my citizenship to be here. But also that too could be imperiled, because they can all find various nuances. I'm not worried about that. All I'm saying is that, there are people here who will not back down. We're not just going to cave into. But at the same token, we must understand what the rules and regulations are. And these are the rules and regulations of today. And we must find ways to subscribe to them until that time arrives.
Let me bring you back in, Ms. Lee, and get your sort of legal opinion on this matter. What legal options, if any, spend a little bit more time on this for me. What legal options, if any, are available to sort of challenge or seek waivers from these bans, and how should affected individuals and families prepare or, in fact, protect themselves?
I could see the challenge coming mostly to people who are, if we find, as we go along, that we find mostly immigrant visa people start being affected, and even for asylum, for example, I could see those people being lawsuits, because, the tourist visas, usually, you're not really entitled to those. And so even with the due process argument, it's going to be very difficult. I know even right now for non-immigrant visas, you can't even appeal those decisions, even without the ban or anything else. That's not something that's really appealable. Yes, there are waivers available. And so as I stated before, on a case-by-case basis, you can definitely file an I-601, for example, a waiver application to seek for you to come in, notwithstanding the ban.
You might have addressed this already, but the listeners are still asking, can green card holders from these countries face any restrictions or additional scrutiny upon re-entry to the U.S.?
You know, it's funny that you said that, because I was watching something that our vice president was basically stating, where he said he made it clear that the green card holders are just, able to work here and that is it. And if anything happens, they can be banned and they could be removed. Well, we know that for years, green card holders, as I've always told my clients, and I've always encouraged them to become citizens. A lot of them don't want to, maybe because for obvious reasons, let's say they're going to politics or so. I understand that's different. But other than that, I always encourage them to become a United States citizen, because as green card holders, Richie, you're able to work and travel. Mm-hmm. But I always use the word, if you slip, you slide, meaning if you commit certain crimes, if, certain states outside the United States, especially a large client base in Jamaica who are permanent residents, and they tend to, be living, and don't use the term lightly, double life, meaning they have something going on for them to work or otherwise. Mm-hmm. And so they're always in jeopardy of losing that green card. And so with everything that's happening, I could definitely see them being targeted mostly. So for green card holders out there that's listening, please, you have to shape up. Look at your travel pattern. Make sure you dot your I's, cross your T's, and as soon as you're eligible for citizenship, go ahead. Yes, I know that there have been talks as well for people saying that they're going to strip them of their citizenship. But that part is going to be a little bit more difficult for them to do. And that part, we're going to see a lot of lawsuits and a lot of fight back for stripping someone of their citizenship, because normally that's stripped if, for example, you committed some fraud in getting that citizenship in the first place, and, other things that we could go into another time. But for the most part, I always said for green card holders, yes, they should still be worried, because right now, even though Donald Trump tends to be targeting these people from these countries and these people coming in for visa purposes, tourist purposes, student visas, I think green card holders should still be worried, because they're also going to be met, in my opinion.
And Irwin, my final question to you, I want to focus now on persons who are currently in the United States, maybe on a visa. Should they be concerned about their status due to these new travel restrictions?
As long as they follow the rules and regulations, if they're given 3 months, leave before the 3 months is done. If you're given 1 week, leave before the 1 week is done. Follow the rules and regulations, just as how I'd follow the rules and regulations when I travel to Jamaica. Don't get involved in situations, nefarious activities, and you'll be fine. There's strict rules for visas. You're not supposed to be engaging in employment activities. You came here to visit friends and families and have a good time, shop and spend all the money you have, and maybe your friends' money too, and go back home. If you choose to say that is your personal responsibility, in that case, then seek out the Opal Lees of the world and attorneys who practices those kind of situations. But, by the rules and the regulations. That's how it operates here, especially in today's world. Mm-hmm. Because if you notice today, any major crime that takes place, the first thing they want to find out is if this person is an immigrant.
Yeah.
Right? And then it becomes a large-scale issue. These are the terrorists that are coming in to harm our nation. And yes, whether you have a green card or not, and one member of your family has a visitor's visa, like in the case of this person recently, they're putting deportation proceedings to their family, because as the vice president and the secretary of state says, I can remove that green card from you whenever I want to, and they can. So that's the state of affairs. That's why I join Opal in saying that you qualify for citizenship. Please go out and do it, because you are protecting your interests and your investments in this country and your families. That's what you're doing if you intend to stay here. Because if you slip, you will slide.
Yeah.
That's a fact.
On behalf of the listeners to the Richie B.
And
Morning
just I
Show.
want to add one thing to
Go
that,
ahead, Opal, yes?
to what he said. Yes, one thing I should say to add to what Erwin just said. Another thing, as visa holders, if you really want to secure that visa or are more likely to secure it, please be careful of what you put on social media. It is a well-known fact that, they're using AI to go ahead, AI, I should say, to target what you're saying. So I know free speech, yes, but we know what we have been seeing this administration doing. So yes, you might have certain thoughts on certain things. Try to keep it in your mind and don't put it on Instagram, Facebook, because that's another reason. And we clearly have seen it in the past few weeks and few months that people have been stripped. So even though you might be shocking that spending that money, as Erwin just said, please also be careful of what you put out on social media. Keep your thoughts, maybe mostly to yourself.
A word to the wise is sufficient. I'd like to thank you on behalf of the listeners. U.S. Attorney, Immigration Attorney Opal Lee, thank you very much for your thoughts and your the information you shared this morning. Thank you. And I want to also thank, of course, Caribbean Immigration Services Head Irwine Clare as well. Thank you very much, Irwin, and you both have a wonderful day. Take care. All the